Now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Thank you so much for joining us here on CPA Academy. This is Matt Isco of CPA Academy. My pleasure to welcome you to this presentation. We're very excited. Blake is back presenting on our platform once again. Excited to get underway as we're right here on time. But before we kick things off, just want to make sure things are working okay. Everybody knows what to expect and what is expected. Should be able to hear me at this point. Should be able to see that very first slide up on your screen. James is already anticipating that question, letting me know things are loud and clear. Get a few other of our attendees today. Just go ahead and type into that questions panel. Let me know everything is working okay. Perhaps what interested you in today's session, what excites you about today's session, what you're hoping to learn or get out of it. It doesn't have to be a paragraph in length. Just confirm that the questions are coming through and you can hear me. Would appreciate that. So a few folks typing in, so that is just fantastic. I think we are in good shape. Want to point out a few things. You can earn credit for today's course. It's very simple to do so. All you need to do is remain logged in throughout the duration of the presentation. We have polling questions like we typically do, and we're going to launch those intermittently throughout the session. You're going to see those pop up right on the screen. And all you need to do is select an answer you feel is appropriate and hit the big submit button. Then once we wrap up here today, we'll get to work on issuing that credit for you. It takes us about 24 hours or less to do just that. You're going to see an email from us here at CPA Academy letting you know it's all set and available in your account. We're going to record today's session. We'll have that posted later in the day to our archive library. So if you miss anything or you need to review it, you are more than welcome to do just that. And of course, we have a copy of the handouts available to you. Those are in your account as well. They're right there in that handouts tab. So if you'd like to access those as a resource and follow along, you are more than welcome to do so. So Autumn says, inspiration is the reason for attending today's session. So that is a fantastic reason. Certainly going to get that from Blake today. Want to thank Avalara as well, who's helped bring a lot of content like this to our platform over the years, both sponsoring courses like this and bringing their own content to our CPA Academy members. So we're very appreciative of the opportunity they make available. And Blake, want to thank you for leading us on today's course. I know we're going to get a lot of inspiration and a lot of know-how from your topic today. So I just want to say thanks once again. So there's a lot to cover. So I'll step out of your way, and I'll turn it over to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everyone, for being here, and thanks to Avalara for sponsoring this session. This is the Art of the Newsletter for Lead Generation, presented by me, Blake Oliver. It is January 23rd, 2018. I hope you are all having a wonderful start to your 2018. And today we are going to talk about email newsletters, which have been around for 30 years since the invention of email. So it's kind of funny that we're still talking about this, but amazingly, email is still a fantastic marketing tool. It is one of the most effective and inexpensive marketing tools that you have in your tool chest, and everyone can do it. So I would say, pretty decent at doing email newsletters. So I'm going to share with you what I've learned over the last couple of years doing my own. And I'm going to show you what I use, the tools I use to create that newsletter. And we'll talk a bit before that about why you need to do one and the value of that, in case you're not already sold on it. So before I get into the content, I would like to introduce myself so you know who you're listening to. Maybe I'm not worth listening to. We'll find out. I am the Senior Product Marketing Manager at Flowcast. I recently joined Flowcast. I was previously at a firm called Armanino. And before that, I had my own small online accounting services firm. It was called Cloud Sourced Accounting. We were one of the first Xero-based bookkeeping companies in the US. I happened to be the second guy to get certified on Xero. I was also a QuickBooks Online user, big user of online accounting tools when that was just becoming pretty good, I would say, in 2010, 2011. I'm a career changer. Originally, I was a musician, and I had to figure out something to do during the day that could pay for that habit of mine in the evenings. And so I got into bookkeeping because it was one of those things that I could do, flexible schedule, required some skill with numbers, which musicians tend to have, so it worked out really well for me. And when this whole cloud accounting thing started to happen, I fell in love with the technology and the tools and the consulting opportunities that I had, and so just taught myself. And it's kind of crazy to think that in 2010, I was a musician doing bookkeeping on the side to make some money, and here we are in 2017, and I have a job talking about cloud accounting technology. And I should say that in between, during that time, I did go back to school for accounting, and that's when I also founded my own company. So after I sold my business, I sold that in 2015, very lucky to sell it to a CPA firm that wanted to acquire our technology stack, our methods and processes. I went to work at Armanino LLP as a manager in the outsourced finance and accounting team. And then I couldn't pass up the opportunity to work at Flowcast. We make close management software for accountants, mostly financial controllers and mid-market size companies. I am also the curator of Cloud Accounting Weekly. That's a newsletter that I put out weekly. And this is really the most relevant part for you guys. I started doing this newsletter about a year and a half ago. Maybe it was 2 years ago. I've done 71 issues now on mostly a weekly basis with some breaks for holidays and whatnot. And I'm going to show you what I've learned doing it. And hopefully you'll be able to take some of those lessons and apply it in your own practice or for your own professional development. I really think that everyone who wants to be known in their industry or profession should be doing one of these because it's really easy these days. So here's what we're going to talk about today. And by the way, please feel free to post your questions as we go. I hate just talking for an hour, and so I'm more than happy to answer any questions. I've got the questions panel open as well as the chat. So here's our topics for today. Why should we send an email newsletter? More importantly, if you are going to send an email newsletter, how do you minimize the time that you spend on it? It's a huge effort, or I would say that the reason that most people don't do one is because they perceive it to be a huge effort. I would say that if you do it right, it doesn't have to be. So in the promo for this session, I said you could do it in an hour a month. If you send a monthly email newsletter and you keep it simple, I think it really is possible to do it in an hour a month. And maybe that'll help you get to do it more frequently. How to make people want to read it. So it would be a shame if you spent all that time and effort on putting together a newsletter for yourself or your firm and nobody wanted to read it, which unfortunately is what happens a lot. And we're going to go through the top applications that you can use that are specifically designed for sending out an email newsletter. And these are apps that really have just developed in the last few years, I would say. So we're not going to be looking at MailChimp. We're not going to be looking at Constant Contact. Those are older email marketing tools that are very powerful, but they take a lot of time and effort to use. We're going to be talking about apps that you can use without really any skill in marketing. You don't have to be a marketer to use them, I would say. And I'm going to show you specifically Revue, which is what I use to put together Cloud Accounting Weekly every week. All right, so now it's time for our polling question number 1. I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll. How would you rate your knowledge of email marketing? That's my question for you. So I believe the poll is launching. You should now see the options available to you. All right, we've got some coming in. 87% have voted. You guys are really on the ball. 91%. I'm going to give you another 10 seconds. I feel like 30 seconds is pretty good for this. Okay, going once, going twice, and the poll is closing. And I'm going to share the results. So let's see. All right, 39% of you have no knowledge of email marketing. So that's great for me because it means I can do a terrible job and you'll still come away with something. If you happen to have a fair knowledge of email marketing, I hope that I can bump you up to the next level, good or even excellent. I really don't think it takes a lot to do this, especially with the tools that are available now. All right, so moving on. Our first topic, why do email marketing? There's really two reasons. Number one, for every $38, I'm sorry, the other way around. For every $1 that you spend on email marketing, and you may spend virtually nothing on it, by the way, you get $38 in return. That's insane from a marketing standpoint when people spend hundreds of dollars just to get a single lead from advertising on LinkedIn. That's a real study from VentureBeat. And in my experience, I mean, it totally makes sense. These apps that we're going to be using cost $10 a month to start. They cost, if you hire somebody to do email marketing for you, you might be spending $1,000 a month or something like that, or maybe more. But still, if you get one client from that, pays for it. So I'm sold on this. The other reason to be doing email marketing is personal branding. So what is personal branding? It's really the professional version of you that you show to the world. And that used to be something that you did at networking events locally. It's still something that happens that way. I'm not saying it doesn't, but you also now need to have an online component if you really want to be good at branding yourself as an expert. So you need to have a good website. You need to be creating content so that it's not stale, right? You need to be putting something up there. You need to be posting at least once a month on social media. If you have a Twitter account, it can't be stale 12 months. So you got to be doing something like that. And I think the newsletter is a great way actually to create content that you can then use on LinkedIn or that you can then put on your website. And I'll show you how I do that. And I would say that in my own experience, doing this and sharing what I've been learning has really created my entire career. It helped me get clients when I owned my own business doing technology consulting and bookkeeping. And it helped me get the job at Armanino. And I credit the newsletter and the blogging I've done with helping me get this job at Flowcast. Now, I know you probably don't want to become a marketer. I view myself more as an educator, but even if you don't want to do what I'm doing, you want to be perceived as an expert by your prospects or your customers, and the newsletter is going to help you do that. I'm going to move right into polling question number 2, since the bulk of this is going to be a demonstration. I don't want to break that up with polling questions, so I'm going to launch that one right now. How often do you send an email newsletter now? Once a week or more, once a month, once a quarter, once a year or less, or you've never sent one. And this could be your firm as well if you're a small firm. It doesn't have to be directly from you. So I know that at Armanino, we would send pretty frequent email newsletters, although they didn't come from us personally. They came typically from a generic email address. All right, I'm going to go another 10 seconds. We got 89% in. Going once, going twice. All right, I'm closing the poll. Sharing the results. So this is interesting. We only have 14%, well, 19% that do once a month or more frequently. We've got 12%, 17% once a quarter, once a year, and 50% of you, and more than half of you, have never sent a newsletter. So I hope that we can make that change for you. All right, let's talk about bad newsletters versus good newsletters before we get into the actual building of the newsletter. So on the left here, this is what I would consider to be a bad newsletter. And this is probably what most of your newsletters look like. Unfortunately, this is sort of what we've been taught to do. This is actually from my financial planner, and I love him, but it was a perfect example, so I had to use it. Issues here. 1, the email comes from company name Financial Consulting. It doesn't come from somebody personally. I'm much less likely to open it because it's not personal. If it came from my buddy, I'm going to click it. I'm much more likely to click it. Number 2, actually this should have been number 1, the subject line, right? The subject line is newsletter December 2017. Whoever opens that, I mean, it's probably the last thing I'm going to look at because it doesn't tell me what I'm going to get out of it, right? So we want to have subject lines that actually entice people to open up our newsletters. And then the third problem is simply the layout. I took this screenshot on my mobile phone, and in order to view these newsletters, because they're designed for desktop, I have to pinch and zoom. There's multiple articles. I'm not really sure what it is that I'm supposed to be getting out of this, right? So, I love my friend, my financial guy, but I'd rather just call him up and then read this. So here's an example of a good one on the right. This is from GrowthWise, which is a very forward-thinking cloud firm in Australia. They do better. In the subject line, it says holiday checklist. So I know I'm getting something relating to the holidays. There's some sort of checklist, some value there. The sender is still from GrowthWise. I would change that. I would actually have it go from Steph, who's the owner, but it's not terrible. At least it's the name of the firm. Well, at least they have a good firm name. And then right up top, you see we've got this beautiful banner image, and we've got the holiday checklist, and it's easy to read. So that's the kind of email newsletter that we want to create. And I've got a few questions coming in, so I want to take a look at these before I move on. Let's see. How to keep the email newsletter from going to spam/junk folders. This is a question from Marilyn. So actually, that's a great point that I forgot to bring up, Marilyn. When you send an email from your personal email address as opposed to an info@cpafirm.com, it's much more likely to not get blocked by spam filters because the spam filter thinks it's coming from a person versus a company. Also, if you've communicated with that client or prospect before, and it comes from your personal email address at your domain, that's also going to help it in particular. So great question and a great reason to personalize your email newsletters. So newsletters should come from the partner, right? Or it should come from the person who is actually writing the newsletter, from their email address. Another question from Marie. Do you recommend a particular length for email marketing? Thank you. Yes, I like keeping it short. We'll talk about that. I don't think that long email newsletters are effective. People don't have a lot of attention. They want to look at the subject and know what they get. So this is a benefit to us, actually. We don't have to spend a huge amount of time writing an email newsletter. We could actually just put one thing in it. Now, I don't do that with mine. And I'll show you what mine looks like, but I'm sort of an exception. I spend a lot of time on it. It's different than what I would send out if I were a practitioner. And Chris has a couple of questions. He says, do we have any statistics on conversion rates? Do you do targeted sendouts, or did you do a blast to a segment? So I think typical conversion rates are 1-2%. So if you have a list of 100 people or 100 clients, then one or two of them might click on what you send them. But it can be a lot higher if you do this right, if it's personalized. So for instance, I can share with you my conversion rates on my newsletter. Let me bring this over. So this is my newsletter. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I want to show you the stats, which are kind of cool. So let's take a look. How do I get to my stats? This is one of my newsletters that's in draft right now. And these are my stats. So these are my last, this is the newsletter that's currently being worked on. And then these are the ones that have been sent. So you can see I sent it to 1,338 subscribers. These are all people who have opted in. None of them were added by me. They all chose to receive this. So I get pretty high, relatively high open and click rates. So 37% opened and 28% clicked. I mean, this is just my experience sending to people who are really interested in what I'm writing about. I think it's totally possible for you to get this if you're, say you're a tax professional and you're sending really, specific, useful information to your clients. You could expect to get a 20% open rate. And if it's informational, you could expect to get a similar number of clicks. If it's something you're selling, you should expect to get a lot less. But still, the ROI is very high, because what did it cost you to send that email? Nothing really. And now in terms of, you asked Chris about targeted sendouts or blasting to a segment. That's something you can do with apps like MailChimp. You can create segments. In Revue, you can't. You're just sending out everything to the same list. So if you want to do segments, you got to go a little more complex. You got to do something like MailChimp. I think it's great to start with something like Revue and see what's working. And then if that's working, you can either start a second Revue account for a different segment, or you can consolidate in something like MailChimp. And there's ways to get your subscribers back and forth between those tools. So you can always start with one and then switch to the other. And then you had one more question that I want to answer before I go on. What was the ROI for my personal firm? Hard to quantify that really because I didn't track it. I would say that if you can take all of our online marketing efforts, it was really just my time. I hired a contractor to build our website and whatnot, but then it was just my time. So I guess, value. How do you value the time of a founder? Let's say it was half of my time and it was $100,000 a year. That was responsible for half of the business that we grew. So I would say it was, maybe it wasn't 38 times overall, but at least 10 for sure in terms of building value. So still quite good. All right, thanks for all the great questions, everyone. I'm going to move on, but please feel free to keep typing in your questions, and I hope that helps. Let's keep going. All right, jumping straight to polling question number 3. So I'm going to have, this is our last polling question for a while, and then I'm going to do the demo, and then at the end, we're going to have polling question number 4. So have you ever made a purchase as a result of opening a marketing email? I guess this gets to our question about ROI. So the poll is in progress. I have definitely made purchases as a result of opening marketing emails, mostly technology type stuff. Like I think I bought a Ring doorbell because of an email newsletter or a marketing email. I'm also a sucker for graphic t-shirts because I've had my own firm and I like to dress comfortably. So if you buy a t-shirt from a website one time, you'll get an email every day for the rest of your life. I just like looking at them, so I'm a sucker for that. Okay, I'm going to close this poll. Going once, going twice. And the results. 40%, yes, definitely. And 27% think, yes, they probably did. So that's 67%, 2/3 of you have most likely purchased something from a marketing email. It's crazy that we're not sending marketing emails to our clients. Just in terms of new customers, existing customers, I should say, you can upsell additional services. There are probably things that your clients don't know that you do, or your customers don't know that you do, that you would offer. So maybe they just get their taxes done. Maybe they would also like tax planning, or maybe they would also like to add bookkeeping. If they don't know that you do it, they aren't going to buy it. And one way that you can let them know is with a newsletter. Okay, hiding the results. Let's keep going. So let's say you're sold on the value of doing a newsletter. You're ready to invest the time. And again, I don't think it has to be a lot. If you send a weekly email newsletter, I think you can do it in an hour a week. If you send it monthly, I think you could do it in an hour a month. If you really want to spend a lot of time on it, maybe we're talking half a day. But totally doable, totally worth your time, in my humble opinion. So here are 3 apps that I have tested out and I think are worth looking at. We've got Curated on the left, Revue in the middle, and GoodBits on the right. These are all very similar apps. They're all designed for you to send personal email newsletters. And the crazy thing is the cost for any of these apps is just $5 to $25 per month. And they typically do it by the number of subscribers. So you get to start small and you pay very little. So you may only have 50 people on your email list to start, and that's okay. You don't want to be just buying an email list. You want to build this naturally. So you can add all of your current customers to your email list. They're expecting emails from you. You can start to add your prospects to your email list, and you should have embed a sign-up form on your website, which you can do with these apps, which I'll show you. And you can start just building that. So I'm going to show you Revue, which is the one that I use. And this is important. Repurposing content. So whenever you're spending time on marketing, you want to try and kill as many birds with one stone as you can. So the newsletter content you're collecting, you should also use that on LinkedIn or vice versa. So if you're really good about finding articles in your niche and or your area of expertise and posting them on LinkedIn, well, you can use that in your newsletter. You can basically just, and a lot of these newsletter apps have feeds that will allow you to capture what you've posted on social media and just plop that right into the newsletter to save time. So LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter, this is a great way to discipline yourself or your firm into having a regular social media presence. If you have to send out the newsletter, at least you'll have something then to share out on these sites. And if you're looking for a way to manage your social media, this isn't really the topic of this webinar, but people always ask. So I wanted to show you Buffer. So this is Buffer. This is an app for managing multiple social media accounts. And you can see I've got all my social media accounts here on the left for my firm and for the newsletter and then for myself. And these are the posts that are queued up. And you can have different schedules. You can view analytics. It's pretty cool. So what I do is I create my newsletter and then I use those posts and I decide which ones will be more appropriate for which social media channels. And then I schedule those out for the following week. And of course, you could do it vice versa. You could do your social media and then use whatever works for your newsletter. All right, so we're about halfway through. Now it's time for our walkthrough of Revue. So I'm going to show you as much as I can in the time allowed of how I'm going to create a newsletter. So this is Revue. I have already created an account and I've upgraded to Pro so that we can see some of the features. So again, it's just $5 for less than 200 subscribers. And this is a brand new Revue account. So I did put in something. I named the account and I think that's pretty much it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the account settings just to show you what's possible. Very, very simple. So first we have the profile section. So in the email address, this is where you're going to choose who is sending the newsletter and what email it's coming from. I highly recommend that we use our own email address. Now, in order to do that, you're going to have to add an SPF record to your DNS settings. So unless you happen to be pretty tech savvy, that means you're going to ask your web guy. But you can just give him this and send him a screenshot and say, please add this to my DNS settings. That'll allow you to have Revue send email on your behalf. So my email address for my newsletter is blake@blakeoliver.com. And so when it gets sent by Revue, that's what it looks like it's coming from me. In this case, we have to use the Revue email address because we haven't verified the domain yet. We can change our username. So this is what determines the, if you just use the regular get Revue email address, this is what it looks like. So I can easily change that. It also defines your URL for your profile. So on Revue, you get a website basically for you. So this is our Revue dashboard. It's got a sign up page. And it's going to show all the issues. So let me show you what that looks like when it's completely filled out so that you can get an idea. So this is my dashboard for my newsletter, newsletter.blakeoliver.com. And by the way, I wouldn't mind if you were so generous as to subscribe. I could always use more subscribers. This is my blurb about the newsletter, my description. This also shows up at the bottom of each newsletter. And then there's a little bit of social proof, shows how many people are subscribed. So that's cool. If you get up into over 100, then that adds some legitimacy. Shows how many issues you've published. I switched from a different provider, which is why it's only showing 27 issues, but I'm up to 71 at this point. And then it's got links to all your social media. So this is cool because if you go through the settings and you do that SPF domain thing, you can then have this page for your newsletter site on your domain. So it's actually a subdomain. So even though I'm not hosting this on my website, Revue is hosting it for me. Google associates these newsletters with my website. So I get, every time I publish one, it's like a new page on my website, and I get the SEO boost from that. So down here, these are the previous issues. So here's my landing page, and it features the last 3, and then you can go all the way down. And by the way, all of these fonts and everything are customizable. So not too much, but you can get the look and feel of your firm. So I'll just click on my most recent newsletter, and this is what it looks like. What's nice is that when people go to this, you can share this out on social media, and when people go to this, they'll see this sign up very prominently the whole time. So it encourages people to sign up. You don't have to install crazy plugins, all that good stuff. And actually, I've seen a couple questions come through, so I'm going to take a look at these. Sharon asked, are there any free apps for newsletters? Unfortunately, no. I think some of them used to be free, but the problem with that is then spammers create accounts and use them for malicious purposes. So you basically, the developers have to make you pay something. But again, you can do it for $5 a month with Revue to start. So, hey, that's pretty great. And then Chris asked, is that buffer.co? Or it's buffer.com. Yeah, I think it is buffer.com. Let's take a look. And that is, there we go, buffer.com, yeah. So it takes me to the app, but it'll take you to, because I'm logged in, but it will take you to the page where you can get more information. Okay, so moving on, this is what my newsletter looks like. You can put in a banner, all that good stuff. And I do a pretty long newsletter, right? So I have different sections with headers. You can embed images. I'll show you that. You can embed tweets. Pretty neat. So mine is more of like a curated collection. You don't have to do it this way. You could simply make it just have text and images, and you don't have to do links. But I think it's great to include a few links. And the beauty of it is that you don't have to, a lot of people think with a newsletter, you have to create a ton of content and it has to be all original. No, that's not what people are looking for. What they're actually looking for you to do as an expert is to read through stuff and send them the most relevant to them. So this is great, right? I do this newsletter and I don't create, this week I didn't create any original content. I was on the Sage Advice podcast, but I just shared out the link, but I didn't have to write a blog post to do this. I just found good stuff and I wrote some little blurbs. And you could just do one story a week if you want, or maybe a few a month. You don't have to do this much stuff. And down here at the bottom, you can see the description for the newsletter is here at the bottom, and there's links to tweet and share. So I think it looks really nice, right? It's very simple, not complex. And what's great about it is if you resize it, it works on all devices. So it's going to work and look great on phones. It's going to look great on iPads. And that's where your customers are. That's where your clients are. So we want to make sure that our newsletter looks good on mobile. So let's go back to that sort of brand new newsletter. And let's take a look and see, how do we actually do this? So a few questions came in. Autumn asked, what if you don't have an IT person? I'm guessing that has to do with setting up the SPF record. There are instructions here that Revue has as to how to update an SPF record. Your host for your domain might also have that. But again, if you're not ready to do that, you don't have to. You could simply use the default. You could have it hosted on Revue. You don't have to change it to your domain. It'll still work. And you'll still get most of the value out of it because you're sending this email directly to people. And they're going to see it. But Revue does have a nice, very helpful team, and you could ask them for help with that. And they'll send you some directions probably. So, and Elena had a question. If we have close to 300 people, how much will it be? And what if we want 2 newsletters a month? Okay, so you can send unlimited newsletters using this service. So you'd have to pay a little bit more. I think it's once you're over 200, it's up to 1,000. It's $10, I think, a month, and it goes up from there. I could take a look at that, view pricing. So again, each of these is different. With Revue, yeah, so the pricing just goes up. So if you have, you'd pay $8 per month, Elena, and if you had 2,000, you'd pay $10 per month. But you can see, like, it's pretty affordable and scales pretty darn well. I mean, if you had 10,000 subscribers, you're probably a pretty decent sized firm. So even at $45 per month, it's a joke. It's totally worth it. And again, you can send out a newsletter every day if you wanted to. I don't recommend that, but if that's if that works for your subscribers, then that's great. I find that for clients, once a week, it doesn't have to be exactly on the same day, although that helps. But getting a tempo of a few times a month is helpful. If it's not at least once a month, then people start to forget that you're doing this, and so then they're less likely to open up the newsletters. Okay, so. And Maruf had a question. Do they have a database of contacts as well? Because I am at a startup stage waiting to launch. So this is a great question. I do not recommend buying a database of contacts. You can put in people you know who expect to receive emails from you, but I would not ever add people who don't want to be emailed. You're just going to really annoy them. I mean, we've all been added to lists that we didn't ask to be added to. And it makes me angry whenever that happens. So I would not recommend it. The way that you're going to get subscribers is by asking them. So you can post on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and say, hey, I've started this email newsletter. Here's the value. Please subscribe, and have a link to your landing page. So you should probably create a few issues first before you do that, right, to show the value. And that's what I did, and it worked pretty well. Have it on your website. Ask people at conferences, can I add you to my newsletter? Usually, they're going to be nice and they won't say no, and maybe they'll unsubscribe later. You could even carry around a tablet and get them to sign up right there. So, but whatever you do, just don't buy a list. It doesn't work. Okay, moving on. I'll answer some more questions as we go. So pretty easy. Let's just add a profile image. So we've got, here's my headshot. The newsletter title, I just called it Mr. Taxman's News. Mine is called Cloud Accounting Weekly. We could also just call it, Blake Oliver's, weekly update. Or if you don't want to commit to a weekly, you could just say like, accounting update. And the newsletter author is me. And then here's where you'd add your description. This is my extended description right here. I have a long one. You can include links, but you really, you could just use a paragraph. But I would include a link to your website. And then welcome text. So this is the email that goes out to your subscribers when they subscribe. So if you have a particular piece of content on your website or a resource that you've created that's very popular, absolutely link to that here. I link to, on my website, I have a resource that's pretty popular called, let's see, recommended apps. So I listed 30 to 40 apps that I use, and people really like this. So in my welcome email, I say, hey, if you're looking for help with apps, check out this page. And it's just a great way to get people who have subscribed to go to your website and check out what you're doing. You also have to include an address. This is required by anti-spam laws in the US. And I highly recommend that you include links to all your social media, because that'll go out in the footer of all your emails. All right. So I'll save that. you can see my profile image has uploaded. And if I go refresh my landing page now, there we go. How easy was that? So we're still using the default colors. So I'm going to go and show you how I changed that. So is that in settings? I think that's in design. So here's design. You only get 2 templates. I love it. Simplicity, right? I'm the kind of guy who prefers in and out. So I like not having to choose. In and out burger, that is. So you can use the default, and you can click preview, and you can see what that looks like. So here's what my newsletter will look like. It doesn't have any content in it. I like the picture. It makes it really personable. Or if you're like me and you want to have like a banner, you can use this. This is the second theme that I use. So I have a banner instead of my own picture. I would recommend going with your own picture when you're starting out. So you just upload your headshot, whatever your LinkedIn is, and there you go. You're good. And you can choose, again, like I said, your email header. Is it going to be your headshot, or is it going to be a custom image like I have on mine? So you can see here at the top, I've got a banner. So up to you. You can choose if you want to show the Revue logo in your mails, or you can hide it. And then you can choose the color. So this is a hexadecimal. You can, on the web, if you don't know what colors your website uses, you can ask your web guy. If you don't have a web guy, there's some tools that you can use online to figure it out. And you can change these, and that'll update the colors in your emails. You just hit save. I'm just changing some random settings to make it different. So the primary color is going to be your profile page and the section headings, and the secondary color is going to be your links. So now that I've updated this, let's see what happens. You can see now I'm a lovely, lovely pink and green. Reminds me of strawberry shortcake or something like that. All right, so Yelena asks a question, do you have content, or do we need to find content ourselves? So with this app, yes, you will need to find content yourself, but it's actually really easy to do that. I'm glad you brought it up, because that brings me to the next bit, which is, how do we add content to this newsletter, right? So Revue has an excellent Chrome extension. So if you use Google Chrome, and I recommend you do for this, you can download the Chrome extension. Here it is. You just search Revue Chrome extension, you'll find it. I'm going to add it to Chrome. So now I've got this little icon here in the upper right. And I'm going to see if it's going to log me in. Might not work on this page because it's the extension itself. Let's try going to something else. Let's say I'm on Google News. I'm going to try to find something accounting related, tax reform. All right. Let's say waste management, expertly positioned for tax reform. So I'm a waste management accountant, a refuse accountant, and I want to share this out. I'm going to click on I go to the website, I go to the article I'm looking at, and I click on the Revue icon, and check this out. I have an image here. I can flip between different images in the article that I want to feature. Actually, I like that one. Now it's gone. Let me try again. Okay. Actually, no, I don't like that. I like the one of the tree. Okay. And I've got the headline here that it's pulled from the article, and I can clean it up here if I want. I'm going to get rid of the everything but the article headline. And it pulls the summary. If the author has created a summary, it pulls that in here. I can change this if I like. I'm just going to get rid of the second sentence here. And I'm going to hit add link. So that link has now been added to my queue in Revue. So I'm going to collect everything in Revue, and then I can easily add it to the newsletter. They also have this option to, it creates a link for every piece of content you add to your Revue queue, and you can then share that out. What's kind of cool about that is if you share that link, it'll say featured in upcoming newsletter, and a link to the view of the profile, and then a link to the actual article. So you could actually share this short link out on Twitter or LinkedIn, and then people will go here first. They'll be asked if they want to subscribe, and if they don't, they can just click through to the article. So it's kind of a sneaky way to get your newsletter in front of people. I don't actually do this that much. I probably should. So that is now added to my newsletter, and I'm going to go show you what it looks like here in the actual creation part of the newsletter. So you can see here on the left, this is what my newsletter is going to look like. And over here on the right is my item that I've created. So now I'm going to take this item and I'm going to add it to my newsletter. I just drag it in. Boom. That's it. Now that's in my newsletter. I could be collecting lots of different content, and I could be adding them using the Revue Chrome extension. I just drag them in. Now I don't have to do that. I could also simply click a link here, and I could just go copy paste a link. So let's say I just want to copy paste, add link. It'll do the same thing. And then I can clean it up here if I want. Cool thing, you can change the way the images appear. So they appear by default on the left. You can change if you want them on the right. Oh, there we go, a little funky there. You can get rid of the image, or you can make it a highlighted image, so you can make it nice and big. So that one doesn't look very good because it's too low resolution. So I'd keep that one on the right. But this one looks nice. So let's see, I'll keep that guy. So now I've got this beautiful image, I've got the link to the article, and I've got a summary right there. So let's say I'm writing a newsletter, I want to do the least amount of effort possible. I might just share one link, and then up here is where I would, is my email intro, right? So for all my waste management clients, you don't want to miss this. And it really doesn't have to be that long. Could just be your take on it. You could also do that down here, of course, in the summary. Depends on your style. But yeah, let's just see. You just put in some dummy text here to see what that looks like. You can also include all different types of media, right? So if you had an image that you wanted to share, you could just add the image. So let's see, I'm going to select an image here. Here's my favorite picture of Janet Yellen. You can insert content, right? So I could insert more text. I could insert a header, right? And I could simply say, right, you won't believe what happened at the Fed this week. Do as much as you want. You can add links to images, right? So if I wanted to have this image linked to a story or to an asset, I could. Asset meaning something on your website. We can also embed videos, which is pretty cool. So if I click on the video link here, I can add a YouTube video. So let's say I found something good on YouTube about tax reform. Here's my YouTube. Let's say what tax reform means for corporations. Pause this. So here's my link. I copy that, and this is not what I want. Here's what I want. I paste the link, add video. And boom, there's a preview of the video with a play link, and I can change the caption. And then if somebody clicks the link, they'll be taken straight to that video. Pretty darn easy. You can even now embed tweets. This is a new thing. So if you find a tweet that you like, let's see if I have one. Oh, I'm in my I'm not logged in on this one. Let's go find a tweet from me. Oh, here's a good one from Flowcast about Google CEO and his thoughts on automation. I'm going to copy the link to the tweet, and I'm going to go back, and I'm just going to paste it right here, add tweet. And then the newsletter pulls in the tweet. And let's preview this newsletter, by the way. I can preview it any time. So this is what it will look like. It's not published yet. Here's the link to the tweet, or here's the tweet, and everything's linked. Pretty cool. It looks pretty nice. So you can see how easy it is to create these newsletters. It's insane. It's insanely easy. Change the subject. If you want to send it out, you just hit schedule issue. Again, we've got the preview options. You can send yourself a preview. I want to schedule the issue. I don't have any subscribers, but you just hit that and you can decide when you want to send it. Let's see, let's add a subscriber. I'll add myself. So I just added myself. I'll go back to the issue here. Schedule issue. Again, I'm prompted to preview, or I can send myself a preview. I can send it now, I can send it later. And when I send it, or I can say if I want to tweet it automatically, add it to, put it on Facebook, put it on LinkedIn. You can have all that happen automatically as soon as it goes out. And you can even cross-post it to Medium if you use that service for blogging. So pretty simple. I'm going to take a look at some questions right now. We're coming up toward the end. I want to make sure I hit these. Pexels.com is great for Creative Commons images. Oh, right. So free images, right? So images to include in your newsletter. Always a great topic. I like that. Pexels.com. It's a good one. You can search for free stock images. You don't even have to give attribution, I don't believe. Another one that I like is Unsplash. Unsplash.com. You can search for accountant. And I use this pretty much all the time for all of my images when I don't have something that I can use without, worrying I'm going to get hammered by some legal department somewhere. These are all free. You don't have to credit them at all, although they appreciate it if you do. And they're all super high resolution and beautiful images that you can include. So great question, or great suggestion, Erica. Thank you. David has a good question. Are you not borderline plagiarizing by taking content from others and adding it as if it is yours? So I view curation as different than plagiarizing. I think the key is to make it clear that this is not my content. This is content that I am sharing out to you, written by somebody else. So I would, if you see here, you can see it does say seekingalpha.com. If you want to be really clear about it, you could. I think people are familiar with my newsletter that I'm collecting a bunch of links and I'm sharing them out. But yeah, I would agree. You shouldn't ever make it seem like this is your content. When people click on the links, though, they're going to be taken to seekingalpha.com, and it's obvious. I'm not copying their blog post. So I hope that addresses that concern. And then Anne said, do you need permission to use other people's content and images? That's a legal question. Maybe. There is a doctrine of fair use, and most people would be very happy for you to be sharing out their content. So I've never had anyone not be happy with that. So I don't worry about it. But again, it's sort of an unclear situation. But again, to go back to David's question, don't want to plagiarize. All right. Oh yeah, and Erica said it's backlinking, right? So whenever you create links to other people's content, it helps them. So that's why they're not going to be upset by it. And I've actually built wonderful relationships with people online, sharing out content in this way. So I add their content to the newsletter, and then when I share the newsletter on Twitter or on LinkedIn, I say, hey, and I tag them in the post, and I say, check out the latest issue of Cloud Accounting Weekly featuring Trent's article from Practice Ignition, and I'll tag both him and Practice Ignition, and they love that because they wrote that because they want people to see it, right? So it's a great way to help other people in your profession, in your community, and the software vendors in particular love that stuff. So, hey, as a marketer at Flowcast, I would love it if you shared out some of our blog posts and tagged us. We'd be psyched for that. All right, we're coming up on the top of the hour, so I'm going to run this last polling question. Polling question number 4. What action do you plan to take as a result of this webinar? And the poll is launching now. I've got my fingers crossed. Are you going to start your own newsletter, talk to others in your firm about how to improve your email marketing? I'm not sure, I need to research further. Or I'm just here for the CP, which is totally cool too. I always like finding out who's here for the free CP. Of course, I can't see who's answering what, so don't feel like you can't be honest. All right, give you a few more seconds. Going once, going twice. I'm closing the poll. Let's see. All right, I am super excited that 23% of you are planning to start your own email newsletter. Like I said, it was great for me, for my career. I think it's going to be great for you, both for prospecting and just for getting your personal brand out there more. Interesting, 23% is kind of what I see with my click-through rates on my newsletters. So it seems to hold true in webinars as well. So great. And if you do start one, I would love to see what it looks like. Please connect with me on Twitter. I'm at Blake T. Oliver, or LinkedIn, wherever you are. I'm probably there too. And thanks to everyone else who came. And if you have more questions, you know where to find me. Let's see, we've only got a few more minutes. Let's see if there's any more questions. Tana said, I would like the CD, thanks. I'm not sure what that means. Could you clarify? All right. Not seeing anything else come through. So thank you very much for listening today. You can find me at blakeoliver.com. I'm on Twitter at Blake T. Oliver, and I'd love to have you as my next subscriber for Cloud Accounting Weekly. Again, that is newsletter.blakeoliver.com. And that's it from me, Matt.
All right, Blake. Well, thank you so much. Fantastic job, as always. Really do appreciate you leading us through all of this content today. I know I'm seeing a lot of comments coming in saying thank you. This is great info. Thank you very much. So appreciate that feedback from our attendees today. Of course, everyone will have an opportunity for a full webinar evaluation once we wrap up here today, and certainly encourage you to complete those comments as we read each and every single one of those, and also make sure we get those passed along to our presenters as well, along with any of the questions that may have snuck through here that we may have missed.
Just and I forgot to say, sorry, Matt, but I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you to Avalara for putting this together. So if you haven't checked it out, Avalara cures your sales tax headache with automation. Back to you.
Excellent. I was going to get to that point as well. So thanks for bringing up the site as I walk through it. But certainly Avalara provides a lot of great content to our CPA Academy members, including today's course. So as Blake said, I encourage you to go there, check out what is available, and check out the other content on CPA Academy for the courses that they've helped bring to our members. Get this recording up as well for everyone to review in case you missed anything or simply need to share it with someone else in your organization. You see contact information and ways to get a hold of Blake up on your screen as well. So that's going to do it, Blake. Once again, thank you so much, and looking forward to having you back.